Well, art for me is the best way I know how to communicate. Being a visual person is something that's the most direct, better than words. Pictures can either transport one or create a land that's imaginary, create a land that's reality. And it's, the Western idea of a painting is it's a window to another world. Eastern idea of it is that there's actually not any one point, but there's infinite kind of space, like a Japanese scroll or a Tibetan mandala. They're meant to, I think images take you to another place, and that's why it still has resonance today. Whether it's a moving image or a solid image or a sculpture that you carry around with you, or just a snapshot that exists in a certain time. When I'm in studio and choosing what images are relevant, because we're bombarded daily with images, I do take time and energy to research them, see what mythology exists around the objects. So there's a general association with them. It's me telling my story when I'm in studio, but then there's the other component of constructing it, much like one lives one life. It's not in a vacuum, but it's a fluid exchange. The window piece right now is mostly about my backyard and the fire that happened, the cause and event from being inside my house watching the fire and then outside my house watching the fire, and also the dogs in the backyards of my neighbors' houses. So it's those two stories, the fire and the dogs. So everyone's going to have their own associations about those two elements, but I think there is a universal umbrella that I'm hoping to kind of tag into. For me, it's the timeline and how the course of events alters one's path. And I think everyone can relate to that idea too. A relationship or a sense of place or a sense of origin influences how you choose to spend your time, how you choose to run your life. Kind of like nature or nurture, the ecology of your life, what's it built from. So that's kind of the vocabulary that I'm working with. So I'm just trying to present things that seem critical to me and mirror it back to the viewer, reflect it back to them and say, how does this structure relate to you? And I always think that if you make it, the more personal you make it, the more specific you are, there's going to be a recognition. And it is often only where you take yourself out of a place you're super aware of and relocate. And that's actually what this work is also about, a sense of relocating or transition, where you begin to make priorities, or by naming the events or naming objects, you validate it as worthwhile and trying to see all sides of it. I'm aware of that, how things fade in and out, very much like memory. So in a way, I'm thinking of the scheme of the project called Living Room like memory. Certain things rise up and maintain themselves and almost like become concrete in your mind, and other things really fade out, and you need other people to tell you, well, this is what happened. And so there's, I think, an evolutionary process of looking at each piece. So they work together. They're not single elements, but they're actually different ways of remembering, or different variations of remembering maybe the same thing. I'm inspired with this idea of the duality, the multiplicity of spaces, multiplicity of readings. If you translate the word snow, English language only has one or two words for white or snow, but you go to the Eskimos and they have 26. So it's all relative to where you are, and I think that is what makes living, so diverse and so interesting. Otherwise, we'd all be the same people walking around. So that's part of the good part for being an artist, is you can say, this is who I am, this is where I've been, and reflect it back and see how see what the reaction is. So it is like having a conversation in a way, you know, presenting the work at the museum. There's a relationship about looking at something from all possible vantage points that really intrigues me. And that's what having a drawing that's super slow in moments and then having a drawing that's really speedy in other places seems like I'm trying to compose my own version of truth, that it encompasses everything, even the smallest bit, the smallest particle is significant in terms of shifting, you know, the weight, if you will, of the work.